when that term ends, you kind of automatically becomes the Area 75 Grapevine chair. So I spent 2 years after my delegateship getting involved with Grapevine, and before I took that position on, of course I'd heard of Grapevine, I'd seen it places. I was not a subscriber. I thought it was kind of a handy, useful tool, and I didn't think much more than that about it. And when I took on this chair position, and that was during, we were still kind of locked down with COVID and such, and I said, how can I be chair of a committee when we can't meet? Well, we did. We met online. And to keep us connected, we began an Area 75 Grapevine Committee newsletter where we let you know in Area 75 what was going on Grapevine related, as well as Grapevine related in a whole. So it's kind of become somewhat of a passion of mine now. And it's really exciting to see the various changes that are happening in our world, as well as in the world of AA and Grapevine and Lavinia in particular. So I kind of got a big kind of disclaimer here on this first slide to let you know pretty much all of this presentation is pretty much a great bit of copy and pasting. You know, I'm familiar with these articles, these main sources that I have listed here, as well as these websites. And as though I like to consider myself somewhat of a writer, when I was reading this information through these different sources, I just had to basically concede to the fact that I didn't feel there was any better way I could rewrite that sentence or those facts or whatever. So basically just saying, these aren't my words here. I just picked them out of these various articles and put them together for you. So if you want any more information, here's your sources, and we'll go from there. This screen is also at the very end of this presentation, so if you don't get everything copied down, don't worry about it. So this is where we're going. We're going to, well, and I don't know how to even run my own. There, the history of Grapevine. Grapevine magazine came into being when Alcoholics Anonymous was less than 10 years old. I think that's really quite an inspiration that they recognized that need when they were still just forming Alcoholics Anonymous. Grapevine began by simply providing useful services to the fellowship, such as keeping us connected. They basically like newspaper-like form that was put. For many years was the only link between members and groups and their only regular contact with AA's two founders and AA headquarters in New York. You know, today that seems to be something we kind of almost take for granted. And you try and realize what it must have been like back before they had that connection. Today's AA, Grapevine, and Lavinia continue to fill that urgent need in the lives of men and women who are very survival is tied to that of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. So today I hope to cover a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. The where, when, and by whom, the why, what information was provided in its pages, contributions to Grapevine, of Grapevine to AA as a whole. A little bit of history is about all I could find with a little bit of history because it's not that old. On Lavinia, I did find out for the first time that it's actually the history of the vineyard. I have always just called it Lavinia, as most people do, without ever having it in my head that Lavinia is the Spanish word for vineyard. Changes the name, format, and content throughout the years, and what it's like today. This here, you can get and look at this this older Grapevine, the first one, on various websites. This is as best as it would come out here, but it first appeared as an 8-page newsletter in June of 44. Where 6 New York members decided to start a newsletter that would promote harmony between the groups through knowledge and understanding. Back then, it was rare for members to communicate with each other outside of their own groups. During World War II, total membership of AA was slightly over 10,000. So chances of a serviceman having a non-drinking alcoholic buddy to discuss programs with were quite slim. So Grapevine was intended as a meeting in print and sent free to every group registered with the central office and every AA member known to be in the armed services until the war was over. As a result, many became home sober. Grapevine was instrumental in proving that AA program works even under the most unfavorable and adverse conditions. I think this was a real boost to even our opinion of ourselves. We had actual proof that it worked. We broke this news in the first month, just a few months after we got started with Grapevine. They broke the news that a national health organization on alcoholism had been established, the National Council on Alcoholism. Although never connected with AA, it has reduced suffering by engaging in jobs that AA cannot do, such as public education, research, and participating with medical and other resources. Marty Mann, which I believe probably a lot of you or most of you have heard of, going to celebrate her as our first woman to achieve sobriety in AA. Formed the council to gain wide public support for the alcoholism as disease movement, using the Yale School of Alcoholic Studies under Dr. E.M. Jelinek to establish scientific legitimacy for the disease concept. This, I think, had a lot to do with furthering our cause in reaching those still suffering alcoholics. Again, you can find this curve itself in various forms and various printings all over on the website. It doesn't come out real clear here. In the pages of April 1945, Grapevine published a questionnaire by this Dr. Jelinek. Hundreds of members responded, enabling Dr. Jelinek to produce this famous chart, The Phases of Alcohol Addiction, later tweaked by Dr. Max Glatt to include a recovery element. It was published in 1946 and revised in 52. I believe that's when the tweaking took place, was in that revised division in 1952. This became, and still is, a useful instrument in helping professionals diagnose and understand the disease of alcoholism. It opened the eyes of problem drinkers to the nature of their illness and brought them into AA to other forms of therapy. And as I said, this is still being used today, this curve. In the early years of Grapevine development, for more than a year, the writing, editing, and mailing were handled mainly by 6 original volunteers. Nearly all were women, even though the general AA membership was predominantly male. When they finally called for help, the foundation, as our service structure was loosely known there, polled 600 groups on whether the publication should continue or be dropped. By membership demand, the December 1945 issue became the National Monthly Journal of Alcoholics Anonymous. Before the end of its first year, Grapevine carried hope to families of alcoholics with its content. The December 1944 issue offered the personal story of Lois, non-alcoholic wife of Bill W., as well as letters from teenagers sharing how AA changed their lives. Basically, I believe these were, for the most part, teenagers with drinking parents. And eventually, I think they started to get a letter or two from teenage alcoholics. Such writings ran regularly in the magazine until Al-Anon Family Groups was founded and created their own publication. In early 46, Grapevine was investigated by the FBI. An FBI publication for lawmen to read about proper professional and social activities already carried the Grapevine name. There was concern that they expected to read exactly that and may instead mistakenly find our stories of drunken exploits. A friendly compromise was reached, and our magazine became AA Grapevine. Further into respectability, that same year, AA Grapevine was copyrighted and incorporated with a 5, now 9, corporate board. And the price increased from 15 cents to 25 cents. The Grapevine had a format change in 1948, allowing for more voices to be shared and highlighted. Special departments were created. More readers generated more contributors, requiring more pages. Format was changed from a 3-column, 8-page letter like the one that was first shown to the current 64 pages in digest format as a response to a poll of its readers in 1948. Stories were highlighted in special slots. Departments such as Points of View, Beginner's Meeting, and Barleycorn evolved into Dear Grapevine, Newcomers, and At Wit's End. The first cartoon appeared in the 3rd issue and became a regular feature in the 2nd issue. And it wasn't until July of 1962 when we were introduced to Victor E., that cartoon character that we still see in our magazine. A gentleman named, a volunteer named Jack M. was responsible for creating Victor E. And he did cartoon after cartoon through the 60s and 70s, and then quit drawing as his eyesight started to fail. But the Victor E. cartoons and such that we are still seeing are simply reprinted and reprinted and reprinted over these years. And I think it's amazing that we can still do that because they're still as pertinent as they were the day that he drew them. So check out this Victor E. when you get a chance. Did I miss? Where was I? Okay. So then I focus on Grapevine's contributions to AA. Some of these you're familiar with and maybe some not. So the 12 traditions. An AA membership increased rapidly after the infamous Jack Alexander Center Evening Post article in March of 1941. Groups formed, collapsed, split up, were torn apart by dissension, disrupted by power grabbers, and members who mingled AA recovery principles with other doctrines and causes. Letters flooded the office for help, advice, even expulsion or punishment for members not doing things right. Out of this confusion, Bill and a few others, this I found very interesting. This is how we kind of got started with this. Out of this confusion, Bill and a few others sifted out the certain principles that further group survival by discouraging practices that usually produce conflict and disaster. So that was the prompt for even bringing us to the traditions. We needed some way to help these groups that had all this discourse going on and to pinpoint what was causing it and how to avoid it or prevent it. That was just the beginning. August 1945, April 46, Grapevine printed a series of pieces of AA experiences, culminating with Bill's article, 12 Points to Assure Our Future. The 12 points later became known as the 12 Traditions. But he found only groups in dire trouble took them seriously. In the next few years, Bill wrote over 30 articles on traditions. The first was titled modesty, one plank for good public relations, which seems to fit pretty quickly with our first tradition of unity in August 1945. But through the grapevine, the issues got a thorough airing as members around the country exchanged these views. 12 traditions were accepted in their present form at the 1950 Cleveland Convention, itself the result of free discussion made possible by the grapevine. In 1952, Grapevine published the series of essays as we now see them in the 12 Steps and the 12 Traditions. And our second legacy is born, that of unity. Okay. Another contribution, the preamble, the AA definition. In 1947, Grapevine was circulating more and more among non-alcoholics, including professionals in medicine, law enforcement, clergy, etc. In order to make clear what we are and what we aren't, June 1947, Grapevine carried a concise definition based on the foreword to our first edition of the Big Book. First Grapevine editor Tom White is credited as the author, borrowing material from the foreword in the original book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Minor changes, honest desire became simply desire, in line with the third tradition, and we are self-supporting through voluntary contributions was added. Most recently, in June 2021, the first line was changed from men and women to people to foster inclusivity. Whoop, missed one. Okay. Slogans. Slogans. I think you probably have all seen these in a meeting or two. They began circulating in the early AA meetings and first appeared in their former familiar hand-lettered form in late 1956 and early 1957. Each was reproduced on the AA Grapevine inside back cover and accompanied by an article about it. Okay. And the Serenity Prayer. After seeing the Serenity Prayer in a newspaper in 1942, early AAs had it printed on cards and included in all AA correspondence. By publishing it in early issues, Grapevine helped usher it into general use. The term has been a regular part of the magazine's format since July 19. The Man on the Bed painting. The Man on the Bed, originally titled Came to Believe, was painted by volunteer Robert M., illustrator for Grapevine. The painting was recreated for the December 1955 Grapevine issue as a full-color reproduction centerfold. It is treasured by many as a reminder of the 12-step visit Dr. Bob and Bill with AA number 3. Grapevine recently issued a new color reproduction of that painting. And I found that the name was changed when the book Came to Believe was published. So to avoid confusion on what you were ordering or whatever, they changed the name of the painting to The Man on the Bed. Responsibility declaration. I am responsible when anyone anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there. For that, I am responsible. This statement was written for the 1965 International Convention in Toronto by Al S., a former Grapevine editor and trustee. Bill expanded on the theme in an essay called Responsibility in Our Time, the July 1965 Grapevine issue. And that statement became a regular feature shortly thereafter. And Big Book stories. More than a dozen stories in the second, third, and fourth editions of the Big Book were first published in the Grapevine. Stories in AA in prison, inmate to inmate, and many quotations as Bill sees it. Grapevine provided articles for several pamphlets, including Problems Other Than Alcohol and the Traditions Checklist. April 1951, General Service Conference, where our third legacy is born, service. In 1950, Bill and Dr. Bob used Grapevine to suggest groups assume responsibility for the management and continuity of the fellowship. They realized the reality is that they're not living forever, and they need some way to carry this on. They wanted to make sure it continued. So December issue carried the article, Your Third Legacy, with an opening line stating, this is a proposal to form the General Service Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous. Grapevine was then the only access to group conscience, and it proved excellent. For their delegates, sober alcoholics undertook the responsibility of preserving their only means of survival. In April 1951, the General Service Conference came into being. In 1955, Bill wrote a Grapevine series of 3 articles on the growth of world services, which were later adapted to form the original history section of the AA Service Manual. And here's a little history on the Vineyard, Lavinia. In 1991, the General Service Conference addressed an expressed need from many Spanish-speaking AA members wanting to be able to read and submit articles to the Grapevine in their own language. A recommendation was issued for Grapevine to begin publishing at least 1 article in Spanish each month. That recommendation they're referring to came out of the General Service Conference. These articles regularly appeared in Grapevine from September 1991 to June 1996. In 1995, the General Service Conference gave its approval for a Spanish edition of the Grapevine. July 1995, a special edition was produced in Spanish containing articles that had already appeared in the English one. After an approval of a business plan by the Trustees Finance Committee, Grapevine began to prepare for Lavinia. Planned as a bi-monthly publication for Hispanic AA members. First issue went off the press in June of 1996. Copies were distributed to subscribers in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Central and South America, the Caribbean, and Europe. And originally, the conference voted to produce Lavinia as a 5-year experiment. And in 2001, the conference recommended that Lavinia continued to be published by AA Grapevine as a service to the community with the support of the General Service Board. So it more or less kind of became known as service material. And by many is still looked on that way today. So a little bit of what it's like now. This article is straight out of AA.org, separated but connected. AA Grapevine is incorporated as one of the 2 independent arms of AA's General Service Board. With its own corporate board, staff, and financial operations, it is separate from that of the General Service Office. Grapevine staff, directors, trustees are voting members of the General Service Conference, and there is a conference committee on Grapevine and Lavinia. The editorial advisory board is voluntary members with expertise in publishing, communications, digital media, and graphic arts that act in an advisory capacity to the staff. Well, okay. First 20 years, Grapevine operated in the red with deficits covered by withdrawals from the general fund. In 1994, Grapevine came into the black and was able to repay its $11,000 loan to the General Service Fund. In 1967, Grapevine was able to contribute $5,000 to the general fund, and in the 7 years that followed, another $102,000 was turned over to that fund. For many of the years since, though, as well as currently, the Grapevine and Lavinia have operated in the red, again receiving support from the general fund. AA Grapevine has continued to offer new ways to carry and receive the message of Grapevine and Lavinia, increasing our ability to reach our intended audience, the recovering alcoholic and those still suffering. And keep in mind that Grapevine and Lavinia are supported entirely through the sales of the magazine and related items. They receive no contributions. And I was on an area share Wednesday night, and we talked a little bit about do not receive contributions, and why is that? Why can't we? And I didn't fully understand how they exactly explained it, but it made sense, but not enough sense that I can explain it to you guys right now. But it was the fact that it has to do more with paperwork and having the staff added staff that it would take to receive contributions and process them and such. It just has not been undertaken. I believe because they didn't see that it would be a benefit, a positive. So here, just for comparison, to kind of show you where stuff kind of goes, what was budgeted and what was the actual spending from 2022. Now, some came in under, some came in over, and then what the budget, the projected budget anyways, for 2023 is. Now this piece I have here on the screen, that too is available, any of you, in the final report. This one is from the 2023 final report that I got, that I received in the mail, but you will have available to you at the conference, because I know Pete, our current delegate, is bringing boxes of them. So if you make it to the conference, and I imagine he'll get some into our general services, our intergroup service offices. So look for that report, or any past one. If you want to follow any of these financial type things, that information is available to you in those final reports. Well, where was it? Budgets there. Okay. So, changes and additions. Conference advisory action in 1986. And this is a question that's often offered, is this conference approved literature? It's a great point. I hear it all the time. This addresses that. 1986, since each issue of the Grapevine cannot go through the conference approval process, the conference recognizes the Grapevine as the International Journal of Alcoholics Anonymous, which in just is saying we're behind whatever they print. So yes, it is conference approved. So Grapevine began reaching out online in 1990.
Hey, Kris, so sorry to interrupt. Every time you lean back, your microphone cuts out. Would you mind? Okay. Try to stay forward if you can.
Thank you for so much that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So Grapevine began reaching out online in 1998 with a description of the magazine. I tried to find what exactly that was, and I couldn't. But also in the area share from Wednesday night, I heard some information that kind of contradicted that the fellow that did the history presentation in that area share I think he has a date of 1995. But I hadn't had time to fully research it to see the difference there. So let's say mid 90s. It now offers a digital magazine, new Grapevine articles, audio stories, and archives, thousands of articles and cartoons dating back to 1944. It provides information for submissions, calendars of events, Grapevine and Lavinia daily quotes, and a store for our literature. The website also includes information for members serving as Grapevine and Lavinia representatives in their home groups and districts. There's a whole slew of service material available to reps, and that's all. Yeah, you can order it straight from the site. There's a new version of the Grapevine workbook, which is in color now. That's available on the website as well. In 2007, readers were asked to suggest a new name for the humor section. It was Ham on Rye or something, I think, before. The winner was Wits End, which is the name of Bill's study of stepping stones. And that first appeared in April of 2007. Also in 2007, the 57th Journal Service Doctors recommended a section on medical, legal, and social aspects of alcoholism. That section, Alcoholism at Large, made its debut in October 2000. And in the years I've been kind of involved in this, it's still being discussed. There's still a faction that think we should remove it from Grapevine, and others that are all for it. I think through this last discussion, it won out once again. As of March 2009, Grapevine and Lavinia are now full color and staple free. Our current literature today, Grapevine currently publishes over 40 books. Many books are available in audio, CD, MP3, or ebook. At least 12 books are available in Spanish, and 8 are available in French. The Grapevine bestseller of all time, and my favorite book, is Language of the Heart, a collection of nearly 150 of Bill W.'s Grapevine writings, which was put together in 1988. AAWS publishes the pamphlet Grapevine and Lavinia for those wanting more information on these valuable resources, as well as some of the other literature I mentioned, like our Grapevine handbook, our Grapevine workbook, and things such as that. Quickly, our online presence. These stats here on this screen are from the fourth quarter General Service Board report that came out in January of 2020. So these are from the last quarter of 22. So the website coordinator, this is average monthly web traffic, 101,102 new visitors, 11,053. You can read them. Returning visitors, pages viewed. And the Grapevine and Lavinia news appear monthly on the meeting guide app. Grapevine if you haven't checked this out, really please do. The Grapevine half-hour variety hour, there's the link. Originated in October 2021, currently in its 5th season with over 100 episodes available. New episodes available each Monday. 335,000 downloads. Now, that's monthly. Instagram launched July 2021. And that's Instagram with _JV or Instagram _LV. And there's the numbers of followers for those. And the YouTube channel, 9,600 subscribers, 132,596 views. I think that's absolutely amazing. And then our newest online presence, September 1st, 2023, is our new app. A ton of questions. I might be able to answer some of them. Online access to both Grapevine website and the app. Grapevine Online. I thought this was really cool. They allow you to subscribe for 1 month for $2.99. So those of you that might be wondering, I don't know if this is for me, will I use it? What? Yeah, you could for $2.99 a month, give it a shot, give it a try. And before we start praising or downing it, try it. 1 year, $29.99. I think that's still a great deal. 8 to 10 new online stories added each month. Vast story archive, like we said, 1944 to the present time. You can not only read your book on your phone or tablet, you can listen to it. You can have it all audio. And then you get the podcast. Keep track of your sobriety calendar. There's a spiritual practices checklist. And you can share these things with your friends and find meetings and connect to AA.org. So just unbelievable. So this is me. I'm dressed up like a grapevine. Was a Halloween party kind of thing at a workshop I attended last year. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to share the history and amazing resources available through Grapevine Lavinia and learn a few new things myself in the process. I encourage you to become familiar with our literature and the various websites mentioned. Feel free to contact me with any questions you may have, and there's my email address. And I will put this final screen back up with those links on it. There. I'm done.